Welcome to Breaking the Couch, a weekly conversation demystifying what happens in and behind the therapy scene to support your healing journey. We're your hosts.
I'm Dr. Doughton, a licensed clinical professional counselor, a certified school psychologist, and a trauma specialist with Playfully Psyched.
And I'm Dr. Jo Harchi with Soft Heart Psychology, a licensed clinical psychologist.
We're here aiming to provide you with mental health tools to address the cycle of generational trauma across the age span, from infancy and childhood to adulthood.
For more information, visit our Instagram page at Breaking the Couch or our website, breakingthecouch.com. While we hope you love listening to and learning from our podcast, it's not a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. Okay, so Dr. Doughton, they don't know how we met. We met, what was it, like 5-10 years ago, right?
Yeah, I think it had to be at least 7 or 8 years. Because I graduated almost 4 years ago, and then we were in a 5-year program. So I think exactly like 8 years.
Wow. Okay, so that's when we started that trauma consultation group in your car.
In my car. That's right. That's right, because we were both at the same like practicum experience, right? And I would give you rides. I would offer to give you rides home so that we could like chat about our day. And unfortunately, you had a lot of things that we need to chat about. It was a hard practicum experience that we both had. And, I conceptualize all your cases as trauma cases because I was a trauma person. And I just remember you being like, wait, I don't really feel comfortable. I don't think that I'm doing trauma or something along those lines. Do you remember that?
I totally remember that. You blew my mind open those 8 years ago, right? So we met years before that, but we were working back to back, and I had literally turned around to you and shared some stuff and what was coming up with clients and whatnot. And you blew my mind open. You shared with me how you work and how you provide this trauma healing space for people. And it just completely opened my world to a different type of healing that we could provide with clients. And I remember we were working with young people, we were working with children, and it was at a time where I guess for some reason, people in our field were less open to the idea of trauma and trauma recovery. And up until that point, I had never actually worked with a white supervisor. All my supervisors were Black supervisors.
Which is amazing, right? Who has that experience? Even I'm Black and I don't have that experience. What do you mean you had only worked with Black supervisors? That's like, wow. I can't even hearing you say that, because I forgot, right? I did know that one of your first supervisor was Black woman. And yep.
My second and my third. And I was just so blessed to see my clinical cases through their supervision, right? And so when I came to a place that was, my clients were majority Black at that clinic, and I was bringing up trauma, including racism, and my now white supervisor was stepping on it. Yep. I was like, I don't know what to do with this. So I'm forever grateful for you for saying, hey, get in my car. You're not going to take a bus tonight. Get in my car and let's talk. And that's where trauma consultation started.
Yeah, that is where it started. And those long, because the drive was super short. The drive was like not even 15 minutes, but we'd sit in the car after and also kind of talk about cases and, what was coming up for you. I just remember, again, feeling so blown away when you didn't think you were doing trauma work and you didn't. And I was like, wait, what? Like, so we're working in an inner city. We're only working with low-income families. You're working in a city that has a significant history of racial discrimination, racial trauma. You're working with children and families, so you have multiple generations that you are working with. And I was like, and that's not trauma? Like, none of your cases are trauma? I was like, all of your cases are trauma. Are you kidding me? So I really valued that too, because it just allowed me to be able to talk about it and also see from a different perspective that when you're doing trauma work, or when you've been doing it for a while, or when you conceptualize cases through a trauma lens, as I was doing, you don't always realize that other people aren't doing that unless you have those conversations. Right. And so it was eye-opening to me that, or other people aren't able to see it. Because I remember one of the conversations I do remember us having, I was in a consultation group, a different consultation group for a specific type of therapeutic intervention. And someone was talking about their case, and everyone was hypothesizing ADHD and, oppositional defiant disorder and all these different things. And I'm like, trauma? Right? I was like, the
Mhm.
symptoms you just described, right, are PTSD for childhood.
Mhm.
And yes, it can look like anxiety. And yes, it can look like these other things, or ADHD. But you also just talked about this significant case of a trauma history, and yet trauma wasn't the diagnosis. And I remember calling you like, they said all these things, all these symptoms, all these, like, here's the person's background, and no one on the call of like 15 clinicians. And I think I was the only person that at the time was unlicensed, or I was like the provisionally licensed, and everyone else was, seasoned clinicians, and they weren't conceptualizing the case through trauma. And I was like, okay, all right. So this is something unique and special that not everyone is doing, and it'd be really helpful to have a space to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear that that was helpful for you too. And it just sounded like that was your passion. You know what I mean? There was no way for me to hear what you were telling me and not walk away from that first conversation knowing that that was trauma.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, passion for sure. Because I think the other interesting piece is that we had different age groups that we were working with, right? So you had like middle childhood through teenagers almost, right? Some close to that,
Mhm, mhm.
adolescents. And then I had 6 and under, children that were 6 and under in that clinic, or we were actually in 2 different clinics, but in that practical experience. And so it was also helpful because we got to conceptualize cases and help each other through cases that were opposite or different ends of the spectrum for the age groups that we're working with, to really get that holistic view. And we were both working with families, because if you work with a child, you work with a family, you work with a school. But yeah, I think that that was really helpful for both of us. So I want to ask you, when you think about this podcast, what are your hopes for our listeners? Like, what do you want them to get out of this?
Yeah, I'm so happy you asked that. See, there you are over there having the great questions. This is breaking the couch, right? So, what I hope for our listeners to walk away with is the demystifying, the behind the scenes, what happens for us as these healing providers, what happens for us behind the scenes, and so that they could walk away feeling a little less scared of therapy, feeling a little closer to our humanness on the
Mm-hmm.
couch, behind the couch, wherever we are, you know, virtually, right? I know
Mm-hmm.
we both work virtually, so
Mm-hmm.
virtually behind the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So I want them to just know that this is such an option for them. I want them to walk away knowing that trauma healing is an option for them, because we are both in this. 8 years later, I'm all the way in. There's nowhere I can't see it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that would be my hope. I'd love to hear your dreams and hope for it.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I think I want to instill hope in people to know that, because sometimes, I focus a lot on really young children, perinatal spaces, infants, and people who've experienced childhood trauma, right? Adult survivors of childhood trauma. And sometimes when people hear that, they think, wow, if you've had these things happen when you were a baby or when you were a toddler, then there's no hope. right, then like it's too late. And I really want us to, in breaking the couch, right? I want us to break the myth that people are broken, right? And even when there are pieces of you that are really hurt and that are fragile, it doesn't mean that you yourself are broken. Just like with therapists, we make mistakes. We're going to show them, we're going to talk about mistakes that we've made, right? That doesn't mean that we're broken therapists, doesn't mean we're bad. It means that we have opportunities to learn from them. And so, and again, showing that humanity that we have for ourselves, that self-compassion, modeling that, I want people to walk away feeling a little bit more hopeful. And I want them to have some fun with us too. It's breaking the couch. We call it breaking the couch, right? Because yeah, demystifying what happens in therapy and behind the scenes with your therapist, right? Like jumping on the couch, having a playful time. You know, I'm all about the benefits of play in your life, whether you're a child or an adult. So I want it to be fun. I want to have engaging conversations with you and enjoy my time with you and see where this goes for us.
Oh, I just love that. Yes, let's jump on that couch.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Well, I guess that's our talk for today.
Yes. Yes. And we'll be with these episodes once a week. So we'll be back soon.
Yep. See you next week.
See you.
There we go.
When should we talk?
I never.
If you are looking for a therapist for yourself or your child, you can visit our websites, playfullypsych.com or softheartpsychology.com.
We appreciate you joining us this week and can't wait till there's another opportunity to jump on the couch with you next week.